in other days, the other priests would be the ones that would officiate. But on this day, the Day of Atonement, the 10th day of Tishri, the high priest would do all the officiating. And he would start by wearing those 8 pieces, the garments for awe and holiness. That regalia that is described in Exodus, that is specifically for the high priest only. And he would begin the service that day with those holy garments on. And he would, first of all, come to the temple or to the tabernacle, and he would present the sacrifices of the daily offerings that were commanded by God on a daily basis to be presented unto Him for sin offerings. You know, the lambs, etc. This day, though, it was accelerated in the daily offerings were not simply lambs, but some, I believe, 7 different sacrifices that had to do with the daily offering. Only they were amplified, more of them. But this he done in his garments, his holy garments. Then he would take those garments off, and then he would wash, bathe, mikvah, his total body, and then he would put on the linen garment. The linen garment being that same garment that the common priest would wear. And then he would start the officiating the service ritual for the Day of Atonement that was mostly centered around those 2 goats. And those 2 goats and a bull for his own sin and his family, and a ram for the sin of the people, and then those 2 goats. And he would then sacrifice that goat, that ram, that bull. And he would mix and mingle the blood that was from the goat, that was for the sin offering, and with the blood of the bullock that was for his offering. He mingled that blood. But first, before he mingled it, he took just the blood of the bull for his own sin and took it into the holy place. But before he did that, he took the incense and the hot coals off the altar and set those in the Holy of Holy place behind the veil, and then he would throw on from his hand the incense onto those hot coals and altars. And it said that when he went in sideways so as not to look upon the altar, the Shekinah glory, before it was covered with the cloud or the smoke of the incense from the frankincense. But once he'd done that, then he left that censer of hot coals there and went out and got the blood of the bull for his own sin. Then he would go in and he'd go around on the west side, as if this was facing east. He'd go around on the west side and he would take the blood of the bull for his own sin offering, being careful not to get the blood on his garments. He would dip his finger in it, in this blood of the bullock for his own sin offering, and he would sprinkle it toward 7 times. 1-1, 1-2, 1-3, 1-4, 1-5, 1-6, 1-7. Then he walk around on the other side facing the west and sprinkle again. Then he set the bowl down on the outside of the veil, and he would go out, and then he would cut the throat of the goat that was dedicated by the 2 stones that were written on it, one Azazel and one for the Lord. And the one for the Lord, he'd reach into the bag or the box and he'd grab both of these little stones out, and he would simultaneously lay these 2 stones. I didn't mean to get into all this detail, but I'm going to go, if you don't mind. Okay, so the goats were first, they were brought in and they faced toward the Lord, which would be from the east to the west. So when the priest would come, he would put his hands simultaneously into the box or into the bag, and he'd pull out these 2 stones, one to Azazel and one to the Lord, and he would lay them on top of the heads of the two goats. And it was thought to be a good sign if that stone that was in his right hand was unto the Lord. But regardless, he laid the stones on it, and the one that was marked as Azazel was a white piece of wool was tied around its horn and around its neck. Then he would take and turn that goat that was for Azazel and face him toward the east. But that goat that was for the Lord was pointing toward the west. He then slit his throat, caught the blood, took the blood in to the holy place. Each time going in and out, washing his hands and his feet. Having gone in, he sprinkled the blood as he did the blood of the bull. And then he mixed the blood of the bull with the blood of the goat. One priest was there just mingling so it wouldn't coagulate. And then he mixed those two bloods together and poured them at the altar of sacrifice out in the tabernacle or the temple outer court.
So when it was mixed together, he didn't do it over the Ark of the Covenant?
That I'm not for sure, but I'm pretty sure he did not. He poured that at the altar feet. You know, I'm giving you kind of an overview. It may not be as specifically right, but it's pretty close. Just so you'll understand what it is that we just read. And it obviously has been broken out. You also go to the 23rd chapter, I believe, of Leviticus, and you find a little bit more. But it's broken down in Scripture, in procedure, line by line. And then after having done this, gone in and come back out, poured the blood out, he laid his hands upon the goat for Azazel. And when they laid their hands, they laid both hands, and they put their weight down on the goat's head so as to put the weight of the sins of the people, the transgressions of the people, on the goat. He confessed the sins, iniquities of Israel upon those people, upon that goat. And so transferring the sin onto that goat that was set for Azazel. Then, finding a fit person, they would give this goat to that person who was a non-Gentile or a non-Jew, a Gentile, and they would lead that goat out of the tabernacle into the wilderness. And they had a set of stations that was to go some 10 kilometers or something, and each station was a half-day Sabbath day walk for you. This was a holy day, and so you couldn't do more than a half or a Sabbath day's journey. And in these stations there were flags, and each one, as they passed the goat with the Gentile leading it, it went out to the wilderness. And when the goat was released into the wilderness, then that last station would raise its flag, and then in succession all the flags all the way back, the full 10 kilometers or however many kilometers it was, back to the temple, where everyone would then be notified that is there gathered at the Day of Atonement that the goat that was for Azazel had been turned loose in the wilderness. So they knew it almost simultaneously after the event had happened. Now,